Welcome to Process for Profit. Today our special guest is Michelle Dunn. She is an author, columnist, entrepreneur, and she's known as the nation's authority on collecting money, which is great. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again.
So for those people who missed you a couple years ago when you were on the show, can you tell us a little bit about your background and how did you become the nation's authority? Because today we're going to be talking about becoming an expert in something.
Well, I started out doing being a credit manager, so I was collecting money for companies that I worked at from people who weren't paying their bills, which nobody really ever wants to do.
The dreaded phone call.
Right,
yeah.
right. But I was really good at it, and I liked it, and because I was doing well at it, I just kept at it. I did it for a couple of different companies, and eventually I started my own collection agency from my house so I could be home with my kids.
Yeah.
And I did that for 8 years. I had my own collection agency. It did really well. And I started writing books when I still had my agency. And
Okay.
Then I eventually sold my collection agency. And when I started my collection agency, I had also started a credit and collections association. Because there was nothing like that really out there, which I was just doing a lot of research on starting a debt collection business and not finding a lot of information out there. So all the information that I was compiling, I thought, well, other people might be interested in this also.
So I'll write a book.
Right, and so I started my association too to share that with everyone. So I have a website, and now I have thousands of members.
Now wait, the association, is that for people who, or businesses or people who are interested in learning how to collect?
It's for both. People
It's for both.
with a business who maybe need help with learning how to collect or don't know what to do.
Okay.
And then it's also for people who do this for a living. So people who maybe are credit managers or work at a collection agency, and sometimes they might have a question on a certain thing, maybe leaving a message, what they can and can't say, things like that.
Oh,
so I just have
wonderful.
different resources on things you can do and things you can't do, just to help people who have to do that job, because it is a hard job and people are nervous about doing it.
Sure,
And
yeah.
they don't want to do anything wrong.
And now with our economy, there are,
Right.
and which we'll get into later, it's probably even more so that you have
Yeah.
to be very tactful about how you do this.
Absolutely.
And-
It's harder than ever
Yeah.
to collect from people because
They don't
a lot
have
of
it.
people don't have a job.
Yeah, they don't have it.
Mm-hmm.
So the entrepreneur part, I mean, I guess it's been about 2 years since you've been on the show. I mean,
Yeah.
you just incredible amount of stuff that you've done out there. You're all over the place. You're on, what is it, Oprah's? Where were you on?
I was just interviewed for her magazine.
Magazine.
Yeah.
Oh, they call it
Oh, magazine.
Oh,
Yeah.
magazine, and without throwing names around, but
Yeah.
you're all over the place. You're going to be in fitness as a kickboxer, or
For
right?
boxing.
Boxing.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah. It was a story about women's confidence.
okay.
And
Yeah.
like right now, with the way the economy is, a lot of people that are losing their homes or losing their jobs, people don't have confidence. So I think the magazines are trying to have stories about things like that just to help people feel better,
Awesome.
you know.
Awesome. How to see a challenge and go forward and do it.
Yeah, and see it in a positive way instead of a negative
Right.
way.
And you've done that from the beginning.
Yeah, and I think
Absolutely
that's part
from
of
the
why I'm successful.
Yeah.
Because whenever something happens, if you just look for the positive, you can really turn the situation around, and it's up to you.
I remember, and I told you this before we started the show, I remember for the first show we ever did a couple years ago, you were telling us about ways that you collected or helped your agency collect money when you were working for someone else, and some of the techniques you used. And the one that sticks in my mind is the one about the stamp. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah,
For
when you
people who want to collect money from...
Yeah, if you're sending out letters to people, a lot of times that goes in the trash because they know it's a bill collection letter. But if you send the letter to people after you've called and you're nice to them and you just send them an envelope which already got your address on there and you include the postage, they're more likely to send you a check. They'll save that envelope because the stamp is on there.
Stamp
They're
is
not
on
gonna.
it.
It's like throwing money away.
I
So
love
they're gonna
that.
save
I love that story. It's just so simple, but it's just
Yeah.
one of the reasons why you're an expert now.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And becoming an expert is just because, like, I learned that just by doing it.
That's right.
So you really,
Or what not to do.
right. And you learn that by trial and error, by working at something.
Yeah.
You find out what works and what doesn't work. And then the things that really work that you can share with people so they don't have to make those mistakes, that's what helps make you an expert.
Yeah. So we're not talking about necessarily expert collection folks. We're talking about generally, for this show, we're talking about becoming an expert at something.
Right.
So if a person wants to change careers, let's say, which many people are probably looking into right now, and they want to become very, very good at what they do, what can you suggest? What are some of the pitfalls that they might come across in trying to do so?
Well, right now, a lot of people might be being forced to change careers
Correct.
just because places are going out or they're losing their jobs. Whatever they decide to do, a way to become an expert in whatever it is to just really learn everything you can about that and do it as much as possible. So if you can get a job in whatever field you're interested in, whether it's part-time or full-time, whatever you can do, volunteering, just being able to do it will help you learn a lot.
Talk the talk.
Talk the talk and walk the walk.
Right.
And then also just to talk to other people who have done that job, who've done it for a while, because they can help you a lot. And then reading, if there's trade publications in that industry that are relevant just to that specific topic, you want to read those, and you want to read all the books and magazine articles and things about that topic that you can, because right now education is really what's going to help people to get ahead.
Yeah, and when I said talk the talk, you do have to sometimes learn different phrases, different terms, so that if you are holding some type of intelligent conversation with someone who is in the field, you want to use that lingo,
Right.
so that they realize that you're kind of, they're not really a novice. They're
Right. They know what they're
They-
talking about,
yeah.
or they have experience.
some kind of experience
Right.
with it, and it makes it a little bit more. It makes them more comfortable because they're not trying to teach you a whole new
Right.
set of rules. They realize that you know something.
Right, and then they're more apt to expand upon or give you more information because they know you're really interested in that,
Right.
that you're really trying to learn and you're not wasting their time.
Yeah, it's kind of going for an interview. It's like the
Yeah.
same thing. You have to learn a little bit about the company, know what their 5-year plan is, their 10-year plan, and those people will have more of a tendency to get that job than someone who has not investigated and
Right.
put in their time.
Right, and ask a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Because that shows you're interested and you really want to know. And, if you're writing down the answers or really just paying attention, people can sense that. They can tell if you're interested or if you're not.
Right.
And so it's really important to ask a lot of questions and learn all you can from anyone who's willing to talk to you about it.
And wouldn't you consider that to be part of a networking skill?
Yeah, and also just trying to find someone to maybe mentor you. That's what I
that's a
did.
good way, yeah.
I just went to another collection agency that had been in my area that I had worked with in the past, and told them I was going to be starting my own, and asked if he could give me any tips or ideas or information. And you can do that at networking events, but if you have like one person that maybe sometimes you can bounce ideas off of, or someone who's maybe been in the business a long time, they have a lot of information that no one's just asking them. So if you just ask them, they're more than happy a lot of times.
They love to talk
They
about
love
their
to
business.
talk about
Yeah.
what they're doing and
Right.
how they did it.
That's right.
And
how
that's
they
so helpful
succeeded.
to you.
Now, why would this person, you said it was in the same area, why would this person want to give you tips, or anyone tips, if they knew that you were going to become a competitor?
Well, a lot of people look at it that way. I don't look at it that way, and some other people don't either. So I did have other people who didn't want to talk to me, didn't
Really?
want to give me information, and told me I would never make it anyway.
Yes, that's all they have to say to you.
Yes, and then you definitely will make it.
Right.
But then, you have to look at it as it's not competition. Like when I wrote my book, Starting a Collection Agency, some of the people that would call me and email me would say, why are you writing this book? You're creating competition for yourself.
Right.
But I'm not really, because I feel as though when I'm doing something, I'm doing a better job than anybody else. I know I can do a better job. And why shouldn't I help other people to do well too? There's room for all of us to do this job. I can't do all the collections for everybody in the world.
Right.
And maybe someone else wants to specialize in a different area. And in my case, my mentor was someone who'd been in the business 35 years, is looking to get out of it. He's happy to pass that information along, get rid of some of his customers. Yeah. So you want to look for maybe a situation like that where you can help each other.
When we were talking about the businesses that you would go to and ask questions of, I can't help but think about the book. The original book that you wrote, what was it again? Starting a collection agency. I found that it was fascinating because you could take that information and, I mean, it was such an organized plan. It was like crazy. In fact, I passed that on to somebody who wanted to become a restaurant owner. Because it was so organized and so well done, it was like anyone, and I mean anyone, if they wanted to follow this plan, could be successful or become an expert eventually if they put in the time and the effort at becoming something, becoming the expert or an entrepreneur or whatever. So I think it was a great thing to do, but at the same time, it's threatening. Or it probably would be threatening to a person who didn't have the self-confidence like you do, seriously.
Right. When somebody is starting a business, they need to build their self-confidence up, whatever they have to do to make themselves feel confident, because otherwise they should wait to start their business. Because when you're starting your business, you really have to have a plan, and you have to believe in yourself first before anyone will believe in you. Because when you're talking to someone as a mentor or networking, asking questions, if you're wishy-washy or don't think you can do it, they can sense that.
Sure.
They're not going to give you as much information. They're not going to think you're serious.
It's a waste of time for them.
It's a waste of time. So they're not really going to help you or talk to you because they don't think you're going to use what they tell you to really do what you should be doing. So really having the self-confidence and believing in what you're going to do is the first step to being successful.
Yeah, I totally understand that, and because I think we've all, most of us have talked to other people, I don't know, at parties or whatever, and if the person is unsure of themselves, you sense it,
Absolutely, yeah.
And if a person is just paying lip service to whatever topic you're talking about, whether it's sports or whatever, they know.
Right. And if you don't believe you're going to be successful, how can you expect anyone else to believe you're going to be successful?
That's right.
And you should believe it, because if you have this idea and you're talking about it or thinking about it, you think it's going to work. And why shouldn't you be the one to do it?
Yeah. So, in our economy, again, we're going to talk about later, but in our economy, for people to change their whole lives, to look for something new that may be working right now, like in health services, that is working. People are going to get sick no matter what. So maybe there's like a offshoot of that industry that people who have organizational skills, who have business skills, can adapt those skills to something in those industries.
Right, and they should just start looking at those industries and maybe try to figure out or talk to those people and see where there's a need. What kind of things do they need right now? Maybe they've had to cut back their staff and they need help just with, like you said, organization. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to be a nurse maybe to work there or to offer them a service. It could just be cleaning their offices. It could be anything that they really need, and you could be the person to start doing that for them. But starting anything like that, especially once you've lost your job, maybe you've worked there 20 years and now suddenly you're going to go start something new.
Sure.
That's scary.
Very.
And the most important thing that I tell people and that I do, whenever you are afraid of something, that's when you should do it. You definitely have to face your fears because it opens many doors for you and you will be surprised. Anything that makes you nervous, you want to walk towards, not shy away from.
You would bungee jump, wouldn't you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because that's scary to me.
Yeah.
But then think about how exhilarating and free you would feel.
It is.
It's like owning your own business. That's a scary, scary thing. You're not having health insurance.
That's right.
You're not sure if it's going to work out. You still have to pay your mortgage. But if you don't take that chance, the rest of your life you'll be wondering And you shouldn't. You should. You're here once. You need to really make the most of it.
And there's so many people out there that you know already, or a person knows already, that is willing to help. I mean, I just drove out of my driveway, and I came across two neighbors who had just lost their jobs, and it's like, oh my God, what? It's so close to home.
Yeah.
And then I drove further on, and I bumped into somebody else, and they were telling me the story, and about losing their job, and what are they going to do? And then somebody had an idea, and it's like, you know what? Why don't we just kind of put those two people together, and maybe that would work. Somebody could go into this type of business and start a new career that way, which is what we're talking about today.
Right.
So I think support system is really, really important.
Absolutely.
I think it's critical. The other thing that I'm thinking of is if you are going to start or starting a new business, or at least that's your idea, in the back of your head, do you always think that, gee, I can get called back to work, so why am I starting this business? One of the people I met yesterday, they said that to me. And it's like...
No, I wouldn't necessarily think that way. I think when you're starting your business, you really have to put your all into it. If your job or your employer does call you back eventually, I mean, that could happen, and maybe that's something you would want to consider at that time, but maybe your business would be doing really well at that time, and maybe you wouldn't want to go back, or maybe you'd want to do something on a part-time basis, or maybe your business would complement something they need, and you could work for them, but as a freelancer under your own business.
Yeah, because that would hamper your efforts, I think.
I think so, too. You don't want to count on anything, really. You want to make sure that you're providing for yourself as much as possible. And if something else comes up or happens, that's great. But I think when you have to put your all into it.
Yeah.
Or you won't be as successful.
Yeah, I agree.
Because you'll be holding back.
I agree. When I heard this person talk yesterday, I thought, that person is holding on to the past, and that's the secure part.
Right,
I mean,
that's
even
part
though,
of the fear.
Yeah, and even though the person technically doesn't have the job anymore, in their minds, that's their support, that's their security blanket, their basis of they've done it for so long, they could always go back to it.
But they could take that knowledge from doing whatever that was for so long to do that for themselves.
Right.
And start their own business in that field.
Right.
Which is part of what helps you become an expert.
Correct.
Like I worked for other companies doing debt collection for many, many years before I did it for myself.
Yeah. And it takes a lot of courage.
It does. It's really scary.
It's very easy for me to look from the outside in and say, oh, well, why don't you
just do this?
Yeah. I'm thinking this. I didn't say it, but
right.
And it's scary.
It is.
And people like to hold on to what they know, and that's normal. That's exactly what people do. I mean, we all feel comfortable with our past because we've been successful, we've done it, it's paid our bills, and now we're asking for us to go, for a person to go forward and change their whole lifestyle.
But they don't have to change maybe what it was they were doing if they feel comfortable with that, and that will help them to do their own thing by drawing from the experience they already have. That might help them to start their own business because they're doing something the same, something they know. That will help them feel confident, and it will help them do well. And that will be portrayed in how they present themselves and how they get customers, because people can definitely tell if you think that you can do a good job or if you know what you're talking about.
Right.
So sometimes it's a good idea to keep doing what you were doing, especially if you loved it and you're just not working for that company anymore.
Right.
Because you will do a good job, and you'll see that because you did a good job for that company.
That's
you
the
can
kind
do
of
a
person,
good job for anybody.
That's the type
yourself or somebody else.
Yeah, that's the type of person that you are, so it's not going to really change.
Right, you're still going to do a good job.
If you were an
honest,
honest,
of who you're doing it for.
ethical person and so forth, doing your other job, those are the the traits that you have that you're going to bring
Right.
into any business.
Right, and people look for those because
Yes.
there's so many people who are not like that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I just hired somebody to do some work at the house, and the promo for this person was, this person is very honest and upright and a family person, and you couldn't get a better person and whatever. And it's almost like I don't even care the quality of work this guy does, because you got such a I got such a good recommendation,
Right.
that it couldn't be all bad, because he's done these things already, and so he must be good at what he does.
Right, the experience.
Yeah.
And then the recommendations, that's always the best way to get new business
Right.
or to become an expert, is because recommendations are stronger than paying to put an ad in a magazine or
Sure.
a newspaper, because you're paying for that ad to say, look how great I am.
Yeah.
A recommendation is somebody telling somebody else
Right.
what a good job you do or how honest you are. And that is much stronger and more persuasive than you paying to put an ad in the paper or a magazine, and that will definitely help people, and it's free.
Yeah.
All you have
and
to do
it's
is
free.
ask.
Which leads us to our next topic. Oh, wait, I was supposed to ask you, we have to talk about mosquito marketing, and I was supposed to ask you about a software company. There's a story.
Yes.
Okay.
And this is more about becoming an expert and how it can benefit a person.
Okay, so we're
And
still on topic then.
Yes.
Okay.
If you want to become an expert, there's things you have to do to earn that. Some of those things are being published, writing articles, or being interviewed in your local paper, or speaking at your Chamber of Commerce, just small things.
And
like
that's all
that.
free.
All free.
Doesn't cost you anything.
You just have to take the initiative and ask your chamber. Could I speak at a luncheon, or you speak about what you know, so people can tell that you know what you're talking about, and that helps establish you as an expert. If you're interviewed for the paper, people read that and they think, well, if the newspaper is interested in what this person has to say, they must know what they're talking about, and that's free. And so those are things that I have done, because I try to do everything I can for free to promote myself,
Sure.
because I don't have a lot of money to spend on putting ads in magazines
Right.
or newspapers. And I had a collection software company contact me, because I work in the debt collection industry, and they were coming out with a new version of their software, and they wanted to include some debt collection letters that I had written as part of their software package, because
Right.
they had letters they had written, but they liked mine better.
Yeah, they probably didn't have the success yours did.
Right, and so
Yeah.
they thought they would work better. And then they wanted to attach my name to their software, because they saw that people saw me as an expert, and they thought that would give them credibility, it would help them make more sales, and it really has, which is really exciting for me.
Yeah.
I was so pleased to be asked in the first place, and I've had many people tell me that they chose that software over another software just because they knew about me, they had read some of my books, and they thought those letters would be more effective for them. And so I get a percentage every time they make a sale of that software, because I let them use those letters, and I don't, that's work I've done in the past.
And the only work you do is go to the mailbox and open
Pick
up
up
the
a
envelope.
check
That's
once
right.
a month.
That's
and
it.
It's very exciting.
Yeah.
Now, if I could do that with 10 other people,
Yeah.
that would be
Yeah.
more exciting.
Yeah.
But,
that's
you know,
good.
it eventually happens. I've been doing this almost 22 years, and this
Wow.
has just happened to me. So it takes a lot of hard work, and it takes a long time, but it's definitely worth
Right.
it.
And then you turn that into a book of letters, right?
Right.
An ebook.
An ebook
And
that I sell on my website. It's called The First Book of Effective Collection Agency Letters and Forms, because it's geared towards debt collection, third-party collectors.
And then you told me there's one free. Are we going to get to that in the next show?
Yes.
Okay, we'll get to that in the next show then. Okay. What are some of the mistakes? I just want to finish on the topic. What are some of the mistakes that people make when trying to become an expert? Or, the word term expert is a little frightening here. Can we just change it to become comfortable in their new skin, whatever business they're trying to develop?
One of the biggest mistakes people make is trying to talk about things they really don't know about.
Okay.
You want to stay focused on the things you do know about, because if you go off or someone asks you, well, can you come speak about this topic, and you say, well, I know a lot more about this, but I think I could speak about that. That's going to come across when you're talking that you don't really know that topic so well. And so that will take away from anyone thinking you know anything about any topic.
Because they can sense it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Or you might get a question you can't really answer, or you kind of flounder with, and people can tell.
Sure.
So you really want to just say, no, thank you, I can't, but I could speak about this, and stick to what you know. It's really important to really just stay with what you know, because it will come across in everything that you do.
So somebody is a carpenter. Let's say the person was working in construction, company went out of business, lost a job, whatever, and he decided to open up his own carpentry business. If the person was never a cabinet maker, he could slowly learn to become one.
Right.
But that wouldn't be the basis of his new business.
Right.
He would be good at building decks or whatever he had been successful for.
And sometimes people, though, because now they're out of work and they're desperate for a new customer or to make some money, will say, well, I'll take this job making cabinets or a kitchen table, even though I've only built decks, and maybe put up fences or something like that, and then maybe not do a great job. The recommendation might be poor. Yeah, the reputation is poor. Right. You might not get paid all of the money, and that really hurts you in the long run. You're better off saying no. And referring someone who can do that job, because then you could work together with that person. If he gets asked to maybe build a deck and he can't build a deck, he could refer to you.
That's how it works.
Right. So you want to network with other people.
That's the networking part.
Right. And stick with what you know.
Yeah.
It's really important.
Yeah. And you can, it's not that you can't learn new things.
No. But you don't want to say, when you're first starting out, well, yes, I'm going to do this, and then try it out on somebody.
Yeah, learn how to do it on somebody else's dollar.
Learn how to do it maybe at your own house or for your brother or something like that.
No, that's true. That's very true. Now, if you had one thing to do, if you could choose one thing, what would you do to establish yourself in this new business? Besides being, self-confident, sticking with what you know, is there one thing that you would suggest that a person could do?
I would suggest that you share with other people something that will help them, not something to tell them how great you are.
All right, explain.
For example, I could tell everyone, well, I've written 7 books and I've been a bill collector for 21 years, but what does that do for you?
Right.
What I need to be doing is telling you, in this bad economy, what you can do to keep your accounts receivable down, to keep your customers, to get paid from customers who might have suddenly lost their jobs and their homes and have always paid you in the past and now can't. What can you do to keep the customer but get paid so you don't go out of business? So you want to tell people things about what you know that can help them. It's really, what can you do for me?
That's a very good, very, very good advice. And on that advice, we have to say goodbye and for our first show, and we're going to do another one on, what's the next one on?
How to get paid in a tough economy.
In a tough economy. So that would be the nuts and bolts of what we've been talking about.
Yes. Yeah.
So thank you, Michelle Dunn.
Thank you
very much, and thank you for joining us for Process for Profit.